I'm Carey Stinson, and my journey through life has been quite an adventure. For over 20 years, I played Barney the Dinosaur on tour and 7 seasons of the hugely popular TV show Barney and Friends. Now my journey is to bring together friends and guests from all over the entertainment world for inspiring and at times amusing behind-the-scenes conversation. I'm Carey Stinson, and this is Purple Roads. Welcome to Purple Roads. My name is Carey Stinson, and as always, I'm thrilled you're here. You know, this is a show about love, inspiration, and we've got a couple people on here today that all about that. I'm so excited to have Kerron Stark back, and Jen Pollard, who is the head writer of Mr. K's Clubhouse, are here. How are you today?
Very good.
Good. Yeah.
Welcome. Good to see you again, Kerron.
You too. It seems like it's been forever. It's almost been a year since the first time, which is crazy to think about.
It's amazing. Time goes so quick. We're all working so hard, and you have been working so hard to bring a new season of Mr. K's Clubhouse.
For sure. Yeah, we have season 2 that just started premiering on Friday, November 18th, as well as our first home video as well, and then tons of other things that's happened throughout the year. So it's been a steady year of pushing things out and trying to try new things and new ideas.
Well, it's really exciting from where you guys came from, where you came from, bringing all these people together like Jen that we'll talk about here in one second. It's really cool to go from just really basically having the idea of wanting to do something and then actually making it happen. I've seen so many ideas in this business, amazing ideas that just don't happen because people are just not able to push through, and you have done that. And I just think it's so awesome.
Yeah, I have a mentality of instead of just saying something to just do it. And so I've always had a creative brain. And so when something pops in my mind, it's what's the best way that we can put this together, and adding people like Jen. And we've really grown our team since the first season, just finding people who are like-minded and who understand what the mission of the show is. It's been a good journey to create friendships with those people, but also keep creating content for the new generations of kids that desperately need educational content and meaningful content. So yeah.
Well, what the team was you, right? Initially, there actually is a team, but beforehand it was just you, right?
It was me, and there was like 3 or 4 other people, my audio engineer, and then just some friends and family who volunteered to help. This new season, we went from I think 5 or 6 people to over 20, including new cast kids and puppeteers, and my audio engineer is still with me. Jen, we had 5 writers for this new season, up from the 2 that we had the first season. So it has grown a crazy amount in a short amount of time.
Well, and let's bring Jen in. You know, it's interesting because head writer, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
But also, we laugh about this. It seems like everyone in this business does multiple things. And also, Jen's the voice of Baxter. So we all have multiple roles when we do these projects. So really cool. What has it been like for you, Jen, being part of working with Kerron and being part of this series?
It's been really great. So we met through the Barney Facebook groups. I'm sure our friend Matt Bailey has told you all about those. Yep. And so he was launching the first season around the time you guys talked last year. And I was watching them and I was very impressed. You know, he had a very good structure there, a very good format. He was very good at communicating with the audience. And it's something that I think there's not quite enough of these days. So, and I don't remember how me getting involved came up. We were having some kind of discussion in the Barney groups, and I don't remember the context, but I said something along the lines of, if I was writing this, I would have done this differently. And then he messaged me to say, hey, are you interested in writing children's TV? And I said, absolutely. And even from watching them, I was trying to think, you know, how can I get on this? Because I think he's really onto something here.
Well, it's really cool. It's really cool. Obviously, that makes me feel really good, knowing that Barney has inspired so many people. And I know what that fan group has done. And, you know, Matt Bailey obviously has become part of my team, and he's been part of that group. So I love everyone involved, and I just think it's amazing where you have gone. So Kerron, let's talk about the differences, and Jen, you can jump in too, but we'll start with Kerron on what has happened in the new season. Where have you gone from that first season, of where have you gone now with the new season of Mr. K's Clubhouse?
Oh man, it's such a to me when I watch the new stuff compared to the old stuff, it looks like a completely different show. There was a lot of things with this first season that were wrong because one, we were filming in my basement.
Right.
And so starting with season 2, we are in a small public access studio here in Omaha that we're able to use. So that heightens our audio quality and our sound, our lighting and that kind of thing. We built an entire new set because moving from a basement to a studio, you need to have a set. So we have this fantastically colorful set that we're very strategic about which colors we use to help also kids focus as they're watching the show using specific colors. We've, like I said, we've had Jen join us, which I don't know if you remember, Carey, but when I did the podcast the first time, I had brought her on before we did the interview, and so I name dropped her in the during that episode. So we brought her on. We brought on 2 other Barney fans who are writers for the show, as well as 2 people that are writers and actors from Omaha. I got a lot of. We had 6 kid actors that joined our show this year. We had new puppets that joined. Got a lot of feedback from a lot of Barney family, Bob Singleton, Stephen White. And so just trying to figure out, we know what the idea is and what the mission is, but how can we continue to grow the quality and grow the content in the right ways, meaning that it reaches the kids the right way. And when they're watching it, we're putting the lessons that we're trying to put out there in a concise way, but also through the world of imagination and love. And so just finding people that understand the mission and understand the respect that I have for children, and they have that mutual respect for children, and they want to do the best that we can do for them, and have them join our team. And so it's just been putting all of those together and creating this well-oiled machine somehow that things just happen to work by tossing all these elements in. So yeah, when you watch the show now, it looks completely different than the first one because we've got to elevate everything that we've done from the writing standpoint to the filming standpoint of it all.
Which I have noticed. I've watched that, and I appreciate you sending it to me, Kerron. And I just love seeing where you've gone in this direction where you're going. And it seems like you really are using your imagination and trying different things and trying different ways. And I think that's wonderful. For you, Jen, what challenges you had being part of this project?
Well, so as I mentioned, the show was pretty much set up by the time I joined. I joined for this second season.
Sure.
And he had already had ideas for new characters and new sets. So really my role was to come in and figure out how to, first of all, take certain educational themes. Every episode is based around a theme. And
Right.
So what themes work? How can we present that as a through line of a story? What can we do to break that down? How can we use these new elements to enhance things? And so it's been really interesting to be able to work with all these new elements that have come in from the first season. We have an outdoor set now. We have all of these new areas of the clubhouse. So all these new characters that are wonderful. So taking all of that and making it work for the ultimate purpose of this show, that's really what my role is, and guiding other people to do that as well.
Sure, but there's got to also have been challenges coming from the basement, right, to an actual set and a lot bigger and all these things you're doing. So where has that been for both of you guys? Talk about that a little bit.
I think two of the biggest challenges for me, and I don't really like to call them challenges. The main thing was coming from a basement to a studio. How do we feel this? It's not a giant studio in comparison to many, but it's a lot bigger than a basement. So how do we fill the space, right? We worked on, a friend of mine, Amy Reiner, who works at a local theater here that I act in sometimes. I got together with her and we worked from December of last year until about May, I think, of this year, drawing out the plan, redrawing the plan, figuring out color aspects, and then we had to physically put the set together ourselves. The biggest challenge for us moving to the studio is this public access, which means other people have shows there. So you can't just leave your sets up. So we had to build the set in a special way that every week after we filmed, we had to tear the set apart and then come in the next week and put it back together. So we had to be very strategic in how we built it, that it can be easily disassembled and put back together. That is what I would say probably was the most difficult of it all, because you have to figure out, okay, well, how can we build this set that looks like a full set but then we have to ultimately tear it apart. So what's the easiest way to tear it apart without things being tons of pounds, knowing that we have to carry it in and out of the building? So I would say that's the most challenging that I think it was, at least for me on my side, for the building of it to get it all ready to go.
Yeah, and I'll say too, Kerron, in that first season, Kerron was very smart with how he used that tiny amount of space that he had. It looks a lot bigger in those episodes because he was very smart. He made little islands all around the place. So even if we're right beside something else, it's as if we've moved across the room. So that was really in place already. So I really was able to visualize the original set as I was writing it. And then seeing once it was built and once I started seeing footage, being able to look at how large it actually was really, really interesting.
I can say one of the things. Oh, sorry, Carey.
No,
I can say one of the things that I know our writers struggled with a little bit for this season, which because all of them pretty much are new for writing children's television or television at all, or writing at all, was the timing of it. So we talked to Stephen White. I talked to Stephen White recently, but how do you time a script that you're writing to make sure that it fits into this time slot that we need it to? And we still find that sometimes the episodes are a little bit shorter, a little bit longer. So figuring that part of it out, I know our writers have a little challenge with of what's the best way that you can time this thing to know that we're writing enough content or not too much content to fill into the little bubble that we have for TV.
Yeah, it's Stephen White, obviously, and Bob Singleton. These are Barney folks that I know really well, and I love that they're jumping in and helping you. Yeah, that always is tricky, and you're doing segments too, a lot of different segments. So putting those all together, it's not just one continuous, but there's different segments that you're putting in those. So I know that's a challenge. And look, that's a challenge that we ran through. Remember, Barney went through the same aspects of this. From doing little videos to as big as it got. So I totally get that. And it's funny, Danny Joe's going to be on here in a second too. And he did all his series have been done in the basement. So really, it's absolutely amazing what we're able to do these days. I want to talk about, because what we didn't have with Barney, obviously, was social media and all the different, there was no YouTube, right? There was none of these things that you now have all of these different ways, streaming services, which you and I are both on DBTV. Yeah. So what has that been for you to be able to use these different ways, and how have you used these different ways to get your show out?
I think we're lucky in the sense of the time that we were born into, our generation, Jen and I, but also the time that we decided to use or to create this show, because social media is a huge part of marketing and pushing this content and getting it out there in front of the eyes of people. Another Barney fan that I met through the Barney fan club is Kaylin Denton, and he has some experience running like his college's social media platforms and that kind of thing. And so I teamed up with him, and between the both of us, we run the Instagram and Facebook pages for the show. And the goal is just create clips from the show or create fun graphics that catches people's minds and just put it out there and kind of on a continual basis. So something's always on the timeline of people. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the most of it. Social media seems like this complex kind of place now, especially if you're not very tech savvy. But a lot of it is just throw something out there that other people can then share with their friends, and hopefully their friends then share it. And that's been the best way that we've built this show. That, and then word of mouth, because I do a lot of school appearances, community event appearances, and that's how a lot of people find out about the show around where I live. So that included with making these posts on social media that's kind of continuous, and something's always new for people to see. And then our friends like Jen and everyone else who's part of the team shares that out to their friends, and then their friends and family are excited because they're part of this and they share that out. That's kind of how we've been able to grow this. When we did the first season last year, the first episode did, I think, like 100 views in a few days, which was exciting. Our first episode last week, just over the weekend, did 3,000 with no extra promotion except for just putting it on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and people sharing it from there. So it works. You just have to be consistent with posting and always putting something else that's out there so people can see it and then share it with their friends and family.
It's also a lot more immediate too, because we're able to, once an episode is out, we can just share somebody a link and they can click on it right away. It's not like, you know, you have to go out, get the VHS tape and bring it home and make an effort to do that. You can just click on it right away and capture somebody right then. So that's really been helping us too.
What are the messages and the subjects that you have come across in the season 2?
Oh man, season 2, the message is the same. It's
Right,
going to say that
what themes you're saying that there's themes each week. So what themes are you talking about?
Let's see. So last week, the first episode was on cars. Jen wrote that one. That was her debut episode, which was all about cars. We have a new friend, new puppet friend named Eddie, and he loves cars and everything about cars. So we talk about that. We have an amazing episode on dinosaurs. We have an episode on the typical shapes and colors. We have episodes on learning to read. Just the power of imagination and using things for pretend play, one on gardening. It's 10 episodes again this season, and there are a wide variety of different themes that we've written, all which are great. One is on communication and different ways that people talk via telephone and video, whether it's people who are blind and they use Braille to communicate or sign language. Just almost, we had a big list of things that we wanted to do, and getting that down to just 10 was also part of our challenge of, okay, what are the best 10 to do? Yeah.
I bet it was.
And part of that too is looking at that big list of themes and then picking out ones that we can cover for half an hour. You know, it has to have enough, we call them sub themes, to maintain that amount of time and to have, to cover all these different segments. So cars was one that I did. I did one on Halloween, growing up from baby to big kid, as we say. So finding themes and then finding ways to make sure that for this 2 to 5 audience that it's going to connect developmentally, that we can present it in a way that they're going to connect to is really important as well. So picking themes is almost as time consuming as actually writing the episodes.
Sure. And Kerron, for you, what has it been like? Now you brought on a new cast.
Yeah.
And obviously working with kids it's a challenge. It's a challenge. So how has that been when it comes to getting them put together and getting them used to doing the shows and takes and all those wonderful things?
It was definitely, it's a learning curve because I've said it before, with this show, I had no experience of anything. I've worked with kids before, but not in the directing side of it, as well as being the host and all of that. And I don't know if you remember, Carey, I called you back in like March when we were getting ready to start, and I was like, hey, do you have any tips of how you guys work with the kids that I can use for this? What I learned, for one, is that and one thing that you told me that stuck with me, that I even told everyone that's part of my show, is they're kids first, right? We had some who had acted and done things like that before. Some were dancers, some have no experience, but at the end of the day, they're children first. So knowing that they're not always going to hit their marker, they're not always going to say the right line, or sometimes it might be fun to play during the time that they should look at their lines and things like that than it is to look at the lines and learn those kind of things.
Right.
So remembering that they're children first is a big thing that I try to remind, not necessarily myself, but the adults around who had never worked with children before on a TV show like this. The other thing is we would get them together every week, everyone who's part of an episode, and we would do a read through of the entire show. Then we would get up and we would move around and just kind of figure things out. One of the key things that I like that's different than I think most season shows is we allow kids, even the writers and everybody that's part of it, to bring themselves to the show. So I really encourage the kids to try anything, do whatever you think your character might do, because ultimately it is just you just have a different name. Try that. And if we think that maybe you could do something different, we'll tell you. If not, then just keep doing what you're doing. And so just encouraging them to trust themselves is what the biggest challenge is, because they might be these lively children. And then once you put 4 big cameras in front of them and all these people watching them, and you go, okay, now dance and sing, a lot of them shut off. And so it's trying to encourage them to just believe in themselves, just be yourself. We're here with you. We're a family. And so that's probably the biggest challenge with the kids. But we have some very, very talented kids this season. And we try to, even in the episodes, write things that tailors towards what they're good at. One of our kids are a dancer, so they have a dance number. One knows sign language and Spanish. And so we wrote an episode that allowed her to show off her sign language and some Spanish. And so we also try to elevate the talents that they have unique to themselves into these characters onto the show, so they get to have the shine as well.
So Kerron, we're kind of finishing up.
Yeah.
What do you want people to know about this season?
I just want people to give it a chance. I think once you watch part of an episode or the movie or anything, everything I think comes into view for people, even people who are kind of skeptical. One thing that we've been great with the writing standpoint is we're only tailoring it towards children, just like Barney did. Mm-hmm. But somehow we've won over this crowd of both older children and adults as well, who don't mind sitting and watching with their children. And they'll watch the whole thing and then look back and go, I didn't even realize I sat and watched this whole thing with my kid. Because we just believe in the children, and we believe that they need this type of quality entertainment. And so what I really want parents to do, even if you're not a parent, even if you know children, turn it on for them, try it out, have a seat with them and enjoy the adventures that we go through. You'll find yourself singing along to the songs and things like that, almost not on purpose. It just kind of sticks in your mind, which is something else that we've been great to do. So I would just say, yeah, just give it a try, turn it on with your children and see how they like it. We've had a lot of people tell us, one story specifically, one kid, she didn't speak much. She's about 2 or 3. But after watching our show, she's tried to now start singing the songs from the show, which has amazed the parents in her life, because they hadn't gotten her to be able to speak or say anything much. And so it's rewarding in that to know that it's not only us creating this content and creating these great characters and songs, but we're reaching these children on the levels that they're at and helping them through life to learn new things and to try new things that maybe they wouldn't have done before. So it's a lot of, can we plug one thing really fast before we end? Because Jim didn't mention it, so I'll
absolutely.
We have our first toy of Mr. Wow. K.
Look at that.
Which, the design concept was drawn by our friend Travis Butts. He goes by Hedge on Stage on YouTube. He's another Barney fan, as well as Andrew Olson, who appeared in the documentary. He built some of the puppets for the show, but he also helped manufacture these. But this is what Jen didn't mention that I thought she would, is this is Jen's first book that's been published for her. But she wrote it for the first episode of this season, and I turned it into a book just because I thought it would be cool for kids to have something that matches what they see on the screen. But the name Carey the Car was a play off the word car, but also it was an homage to you as Carey, because Barney was a huge part of us. And so we value having these conversations and these moments with people like you who helped mold and shape our lives. And we take that with us as we create this content, but we try to find ways that we can, and no one knows that that's part of where that name came from until just now. So that's a exclusive detail, but I thought it was important to tell you, because that just shows how much you guys have meant to us throughout our lives and continue to mean to us as we create this content in this new age and generation. So
I was a little worried when I submitted that, because I was writing that script, and we have a character who loves books and loves to read stories. So I needed a story for the car episode, and I was writing that story, and I was looking for alliteration, because I didn't know at the time that the stories were going to be accompanied by animation or illustrations or anything like that. I thought it was just going to be all verbal. So I wanted to put in alliteration there, and I was trying to find a name for the car. And then I was thinking about it for a long time, and then I was clicking around, and I found a promo for Purple Roads, and I looked at the first 3 letters of your name, and I plugged it into what I had already written, and I thought, okay, this works, but he's definitely going to tell me to take it out. And then I submitted it, and one of the first notes I got on the script was, I love that little Barney reference. So I'm glad that stayed in there.
Well, thank you. It means a lot. This is what we always hoped for, to inspire. I mean, the fans mean everything to us and to me, and to see this going and to see this moving forward. And you mentioned this, that there's not a lot of these shows out there, but they're starting to be. You know, we've got Danny and we've got you and Stan Tucker and Sophie Strand, and these are people that are all doing their own shows just like you.
Right.
They're finding the way, they're finding their crews, they're finding the money, and they're putting it out there. And all four of those shows have a heart. And to see where you've come from, Kerron, and to hear what you were doing and to see where you are now and bringing all these people together, it just makes me so happy. It just makes me so happy because you just have so much love in your heart, and that's what you want to give to kids and the families and put something good out there. And I'm just thrilled to see where you guys are. And I cannot wait to see where this continues to go.
Yeah, thank you. We have a lot in store for already planning for next year that we're keeping a tight lip on for now until we finish with season 2.
Sure.
But we're just going to elevate it more. And like you said, Carey, we're putting love into it. And I think that's the number one thing that anyone needs to have to be successful. Put love into your work. And that love is going to spill off into everybody else who comes into contact with it. And that's why that's our main driving force of our show, why we create it and what we put into it for the children. So love is a important thing that Barney taught us. So it's a lesson that you can't fight against love. All you can do is reciprocate it. So
no, that is it. And that's so well said. It's been a pleasure having the two of you on. I'm so excited for where you are, and I can't wait to see where you're going from here.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for having us. Again, it's our honor. So thank you again.
Well, you're welcome. And obviously, once everything becomes, you're talking about next year, and we find out what you do next year, we'll have you back again to see where you continue to go.
Sounds like a plan. We'll have to do something big that time, something that hasn't been done before.
I'm always up for that. So don't worry about that, Kerron. I am always up for that. Well, thank you so much. Congratulations. And we'll talk to you soon.
All right,
thank you, Carey.
Welcome to Purple Roads. I don't even know what to say. It's Carey Stinson. And I got Danny LaBrecque on. You know, Danny's been on this show more than anyone, and I just love him to death. He just doesn't stop. He keeps putting out amazing content. He's got a new season of Danny Joe's Treehouse coming out, and I was like, I've got to have you on. We've got to talk about it. Danny, how are you?
Oh, I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me back. I think about our history so often and how long we've known each other now, and how much that friendship means to me. Yeah, it means the world to me. So thank you for having me back.
Well, it means so much to me too. You're just a go-getter, and I'm seeing all of these shows that have come out, and I think you've inspired a lot of them. And there's just a whole momentum of the shows, obviously, like Barney, that mean the world to me. And to see all of these creators, from Sophie and Stan Tucker, who you've introduced me to both of them,
yes,
and then Kerron Stark, who we just had on, who's a Barney fan, but he has reached out with you as well. And it's just amazing. All of you are just finding a way to put this amazing content out there, and you just don't stop. And I'm just so impressed with what you've done.
Well, thank you so much. I was talking with Ryan Tushow, who's the editor at Kids Screen, which is a trade magazine that covers all things children's media for your listeners and viewers who might not know. And we were talking about how there really is this resurgence of the local kids show hosts, the live action, social, emotional, adult led, not somebody playing a part of a cartoon, but someone who just sincerely wants to connect and meet kids where they're at in this moment. And it feels great in that club. It feels like the Justice League or something. Like we're putting a group together where we just hang out and talk to each other and exchange ideas and support each other. And it feels really good. It feels like finally there's that type of communication being recognized, not only from the families that we serve and our audiences, but also on the business side of things, which is such a tough market. But I think they're realizing, this is an opportunity. We really do need to pay attention. I think there is a shift happening.
Well, you're making it happen. And that's what I love so much about this. You have all stood your ground. I have no doubt all of you could be successful if you change what you do. And all of you have said, no, this is what we're doing. This is my message. This is who I am. If you want to jump on board this way. And I had that conversation with Sophie. She was like, no, but thank you. But no, this is what I'm doing. If you want to jump on board, great, but I'm not adjusting for you. And kudos to that.
It's a tough thing. It's a tough thing to do. Like each of us, I think, have had several of those sort of moments. For me, it was 2 years ago, taking a real hard stand on social media and YouTube and just walking away from it and taking the time to reflect and do so much research and talk with the pioneers, including yourself, people in children's television, and looking for patterns and figuring out how do we serve this moment and reach kids where they're at without compromising your core values as an educator. And it was a real nut for me to crack, but I feel like I finally figured it out. And for Dangerous Treehouse, we're coming back at it now, and we're going back in to the belly of the beast. We're going into every platform, but this time the plan is to invade the algorithm, flip it, and really use that philosophy of you cannot control the actions of others, but you can influence others with your own actions.
Sure, but I just think it's so important because I know these families are out there searching for it. They're searching for these shows. This is what they want. There's no question. And that's why Barney was so successful, right? All of you all have a heart and care about the audience and the kids and the message. This is not about just making money. And these families are searching for it. They're absolutely searching for it. This is what they want, obviously, right? They were kind of told to stay away from Barney and they went anyways. So I'm seeing it here too. And I have no doubt, because I laugh about this, knowing all of you, I don't think any of you sleep because you just absolutely don't stop.
That's so funny. We don't stop. Just so, well, one, just feeling the weight of being one of the voices. Like for so long, I had it in my mind, a language of, how do you become the next Fred Rogers, the next Bob Keeshan, the next Lewis? How do you, the next LeVar Burton? That gets embedded. And I learned, again, over these past 2 years, you can't help but be influenced by those who came before you. But it is exceedingly more important to be the first you instead of the next someone else. You're influenced, you were formed by that, and then you have your own voice, and hopefully you influence somebody else who's coming up. It's a pattern. It's a pattern that happens in every aspect of education and art. And I've got a good friend who said, the Beatles started off as a cover band, So yeah, it is important. And what you were saying about money, it's not the whole fame and fortune thing, whatever. Like that's so relative nowadays anyway. What does it really mean to have fame? The views that people get just by holding up their phone and doing pretty superficial stuff, and the way that can be monetized, like that's such a new thing for us to process and understand.
Yeah, well, both of us have had the experience of actually interacting with kids in our art form, and that just overtakes you. It is, when you realize how important it is and how you can make a difference. And let's be honest, those kids have made a difference in my life as well. That really is what inspires you. We have the opportunity to throw a lot of good in this world, right? And I think it's exciting to me because the negativity has no problem getting into everyone's heads for whatever reason. And so we just have to bombard them with the love and go, wait a minute, there is good out here, right? There is this here. And I don't think you do anything other than that. It will find its way. If you just keep putting that positivity out there and the fun, as I'm looking at, we're going to talk about Silly Billy here in a second, that fun for kids. it's going to find a way. And I just love that's what's happening. You're not really saying, look at me.
I
putting out such a good content that people are looking at you for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Fred Rogers, he used to say, how do we make goodness attractive? And I believe he was speaking to media in his time of how attractive the superficial representations of power, big, loud, strong, pushing down, wagging the finger, like we respond. It's a guttural feeling. We respond to that. We have reaction to it. It triggers something in our minds, and it is very effective to getting people to pay it. It pulls people in, and it's used in our current type of media as a tool, as a trick.
Right.
But the positive stuff, the humor and the pure love, if it is authentic, feels much, much better. And you can take, again, you can take control of it. You don't have to separate it. Like, I think we do that so often with kids today and ourselves. We give these narratives of, we've done it ever since we started having our, radio, print stuff, the good guys versus the bad guys. You're
Right.
either this or you're either that. And every single human being has every single emotion and all of these variations in between, and they all blend together. We are complex, and we can tell these engaging stories that show how we process these emotions, and it's beyond good, evil. It's human, and
Right.
it can be a very positive thing, and engaging and fun and silly and sincere, all the stuff. But we can own that. I think we have to. I think we really have to, because we are absolutely. I talk about this with all of my colleagues. I talk about it with my mentors like you. We are at a tipping point of the type of media that we engage with. We will always have books. We will always have radio. We'll always have movies and television. We will have flat screens like this and interactive screens. But we are moving into the world of VR and a type of engagement that is immersive. And right now the name that's been put on it is metaverse stuff. I've been learning a lot about that over the past 2 years. But it's these immersive worlds, and in those worlds, all of the stuff that we're dealing with now, the commercial negative influence, the manipulation, it is going to be there, and it's going to be so much more subtle.
Right.
And it's really, really important for us right now to work with our kids to think critically and think and feel critically is something an idea I've been playing with. Like, how do you look through and understand what's really going on through in media and in real life too? It feels really important to me right now. And I think my colleagues are recognizing that as well.
No, I love that. And I agree with you 1,000%. Yeah. Let's talk about Danny Joe's. We got to talk about the new season.
Oh, it's so good. It's our best work. I mean, it really is. And I don't mean to sound arrogant or cocky, but it just is. It is the best work we have ever done. Stephanie is my wife and creative partner. She films. She's the executive producer. She edits. We've been in a position to put all of our time into making these episodes so far beyond just a one camera shot, but really edit it and put it together like a 3 camera perspective, and make use of green screen and split screens and use it very purposefully to tell these stories in a more engaging way. And then also really digging in, the overall theme of the 3rd season is the impact of pervasive media. It's early digital media literacy and critical thinking online and in person. Like, we're really digging into that. We're doing it in these fun ways. It's I'm just so excited for people to see it. It's the first 3 episodes are being reviewed now at Sense V, which is made by Common Sense Networks, backed by Common Sense. That's our main delivery platform. And they take the care to really review everything that's on that platform. Like, it is tough getting in there. If you go there, it is a safe streaming platform, and the quality of everything they put out very high. I'm very proud to be part of that. but they're reviewing it. It's going to launch with them later in of 2022. And then we'll be resharing all of the first 2 seasons through YouTube and 1 episode per day, Monday through Friday, and we'll get to the new episodes in the new year. But we're putting it all out there, and it's so nice. It feels so good to make something that we've always felt good about it. But this time around feels like we've tipped over into something. So yeah, I'm excited for you to see it. I'm so excited for you to see it.
Well, I can't wait. Let's talk about Silly Billy, because I know you've brought in some new this year.
So as you know, I'm a student of kids television history, the local kids show host. There's so many different types of approaches, and going back to that conversation about not good or bad, but just like there are so many different ways to approach engagement with children. And there's always been the educators that speak through the screen, and there have always been the clowns too. Long history with the earliest television clowns, Clarabelle from Howdy Doody, and Pinky Lee in the 50s. It's me. My name is Pinky Lee. Pee Wee Herman in the 80s, Blippi nowadays. These are caricatures. They're clown-like. They're high-pitched voices. So there's this history of the clown, the character clown, and usually the character clown is wanting you to like them, and they're selling you stuff. I mean, they just are. That's just part of that approach. It just is what it is. Not good or bad. It's just one approach. And I really wanted to use that type of character because they're silly and they're fun and they're the num 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 cookies for breakfast, but also to have a conversation about an aspect of social media that is all about push the button to show me you like me. Give me your likes, and don't you like this thing too? And tell mommy and daddy, to get your Tootsie Rolls or whatever product directly, indirectly. But there's, and I thought about that aspect of social media. I thought about the mental health aspect of what does it truly mean to be liked, and to compare yourself to others, and where do we find a true sense of self and self-regulation and self-acceptance and all of those things. And I thought, what would it look like if a character like that came to Danny Joe's Treehouse? And I model myself. I take the approach of the teacher. I go for the Rogers and the Miss Francis from Ding Dong School and Jean London and the caregivers. What would it look like if those two came together? And at first I was going to bring in another actor to play that character. And then I thought, well, I could, I did study clowning. I did circus arts at the Actors Gymnasium in Chicago. I can embrace that side of myself. I like doing the fun, silly stuff. And we realized, well, we could do split screen, and I be Silly Billy, which is our character clown name, and be Danny Joe, and I can have this conversation about what does it mean to be liked. And we get into a really interesting conversation. It's definitely related to mental health stuff and social media stuff, but all through the language of play, like a super safe, objective place where it's not overwhelming. You can go through a process and look at it through the dream world, and then come back into reality and have the message of, you don't have to push a button to show that you like me. When you're here with me, I want you to know I like you. And more importantly, I hope you like you. Like we never do that. We never do that through the screen. And I really wanted to, again, like invade the algorithm and just flip the script, break the rule a little bit. So that's what we did with this character. And he is a silly Billy. I mean, he's really fun. He's really fun to play. And ultimately he ends up being very more than just silly Billy. He's a sweet Billy, and he's a sincere Billy, and he can be a serious Billy, more than one thing. So that's the first episode of the season.
When back in my Bernie days, obviously we were all about love, and the kids embraced that, right? It was easy for them, but the adults always struggled with that. I don't understand this. I love you. You love. I don't. They're just not. They just weren't comfortable with it, And we're finding more than ever these days, we need that. But I still think there's an issue with that. I think people are getting a little more comfortable just telling someone, I love you. Like, I care about, I want you to understand. And I grew up in a family that way. It was easy for me because my family was that. My dad was, we always told everyone we loved each other. And so if anything happened to anyone, we never had to question in my family because we knew. And so it was easy for me to get into that message. I was like, oh my God, that's up my alley. That's easy for me, right? But that's not easy for a lot of people. And the messages I get all the time of, I didn't learn about love until through Barney, or I didn't, So I think it's really important that you're doing that and showing that. And you're right, because they are hitting like, because they don't know why they're hitting like sometimes, right? They're just programmed to do it.
It's conditioning. Yeah, it's conditioning. And it's a sense of where's my worth? What is my worth?
People understanding what that term means, right? I think a lot of times we just think of it in a relationship or something like that. And the okay to just have a friend to say, I love you. And it just means like how much I care about you. And I think I'm seeing that with what you're doing. And it's just so important to get that message across.
Another part of our approach, this coming back into social media, is realizing that the not secret of Danny Joe's Treehouse is it's a kids show for adults. And you give that love and acceptance to the adults, and a lot of tips and tricks on early childhood development and approaches and methods, so that those adults can support their kid. I've been thinking a lot about Barney stuff and other shows in the past, and how many adults were, I think in some ways felt jealousy for I want that with my child. I want to connect and have that type of love. And I'm gonna, if this is the thing my child's embracing, I will push it aside. I will attack it, instead of, oh, here's a way to model a connect love. Maybe this is something I can experience with my child. Maybe I can take some ideas from this and step away from the screen and be with my child and engage in the same type of play and the songs and make up our own songs. But that has to get there. You have to have a strong sense of self. And some of us don't get that in our childhoods, but it's not too late. We can still grow with that and get it back, I think, or get it for the first time around even. It's something I'm thinking about a lot.
All right. Well, I love that. I love that. What are the new things we got on Danny Joe's Treehouse?
We got some new puppets.
All right.
We've got so we got Algo Rhythm, who is heavily inspired. He is heavily inspired by Ollie of Kukla, Fran and Ollie.
Okay.
He is a pesky pesky dragon that lives in Kingsley's castle, and Kingsley was just minding his own business, painting a picture of an apple, and then Algo comes scrolling by, as algorithms do, and it's like, hey, I couldn't help but notice you like that apple, huh? Yes, I really do. Thanks. Yeah, I guess. Who are you? Oh, don't worry. If you like apples, you might like. And he goes off screen and he comes back with a pile, drops it in front of him, nods, thanks. I'm good. You don't like pineapples? No, I like pineapples. Well, if you like pineapples, and he leaves and he comes back with a pine cone. Algo. And it's like, how do you tame a dragon? It's just a dragon. It doesn't know any better. Nope.
Right.
Still trying to find his voice, but yeah, Algo will be there, and I've got a social media snake inspired by the old fable of the farmer that nursed the snake back to health, and it keeps biting the farmer's hand. The farmer's like, "Why did you bite me?" Well, you knew I was a snake. So here's the social media snake. Scrapbook, and Scrapbook shows up through the window at the treehouse, and he's got a lot of reach. So while I'm working on my sketchbook of my friends, Scrapbook offers to carry it and share it with others. And he comes back, and when he comes back in the window, he's got a little party hat on. He's throwing confetti, and he's on those kazoo noisemaker things where it rolls out,
Yep.
And I catch it, and on the paper there are these little words, and what is that? That's the terms and conditions. You got fine print, but don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Well, okay. And we get a little addicted to social media, and then can you tame a snake?
Well, it's the thing I've always loved, Danny. You go right at it. If it's in your head, you go right after it.
Yeah. I mean, why we do it so much in our country, and I think in general we avoid stuff. We avoid talking about stuff or we say, oh no, we don't play that way. We don't talk about that. But if we don't talk about it, we don't play about it, and if we don't go there with trusted, safe adults, we can't learn, we can't process it, we can't grow. At some point, I have a new song I wanted to sing you too. I always sing a song when I visit, and I got a new song for you too. At some point, I want to sing you.
Well, let's do it.
You want to hear it? So I do. It's related to social media, but it's more, again, going back to quarantine, something that we put so much on our kids. We put so much on them. And they little pitchers have big ears. They hear everything. There's been so much language about kids falling behind in school academically. And parents are worried about it. The kids are worried about it. And I was thinking about that, again, that idea of, being pulled back and forth between, I want to go, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? And I want to go back to the way it was, and how hard it is for us to just be present. So this is a song about falling behind. Okay. You're not falling behind. In fact, you're doing just fine. You're right where you need to be. It's true, you can take it from me. Like birds in the sky, kids that ask why. It takes time to grow. That buzz, grown-ups say because. It's just the way it goes. Oh, you're not falling behind. In fact, you're doing just fine. You're right where you need to be. It's true, you can take it from me. Like stars in the sky, kids that try, from their heads to their toes. Have no doubt, we'll figure it out. So the story goes and goes and goes. You're not falling behind. In fact, you're doing just fine. You're right where you need to be. It's true, you can take it from me, 'cause I'm here with you and you're here with me.
I love that, Danny. I love that. It's funny. I'm listening to that, and it's that, we've talked about it, that it's like a classic. It just reminds me of the old songs. There's just something about that, which I always thought from the beginning. It's a little bit of, you've done such a great job of the kind of the retro a little bit, but also I embrace what's going on, right? What's going on today. And I love that. It's such a classic sound and a classic song. And of course, I'm smiling the whole time.
Well, thank you for hearing that.
I think you do such a great job of getting a message across, but not just beating them over the head, right? Yeah. It's as simple as, you know what, you're doing good. You're doing good. Just keeping it positive.
We can work through it. We can work through anything. We can just be here in the moment. We don't have to have all the answers. We can work through it and know that it's okay. We can be present with each other. And yeah, I do take that retro approach because it's also, it's my safe place. Like I said it earlier, I wanted Danny Joe's Treehouse to be a kid's show for adults too. Like we remember what it was like, and all those themes and ideas and the look and feel is still very attractive to young kids. Young kids still like it today. Kids don't change. The world around us does, but
right,
human beings stay the same. And yeah, we put a lot of work into making sure all of our songs and the look and feel feels classic. It should feel like something that's been around for a long time. But what would it be like if Mr. Rogers or Bob Keeshan came back to this moment to talk to you as an adult? Like that's what I wanted to try to inhabit. And be me, just be me in this moment and bring my perspective to it.
Well, it is always a pleasure to have you on. I always excited when you've got a new series coming out, and I love having you on Purple Roads.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're excited to grow. And yeah, we're back. Ugh, I'm going to say it. Like and subscribe. All the social media. I swear I've got an eraser board here. We're going to be on everything. So just look up Danny Joe's Treehouse. You'll find us everywhere.
Well, and we will
website,
connect with you as well. Purple Roads will be all connected with you, and we just love having you on this show and can't wait for the new series. And thank you for watching Purple Roads. Remember to keep your eyes, ears, and your heart open, and you'll find your purple road. We'll see you real soon.